Hampton Roads, which is a coastal region in Virginia, is our second most populated region, our second biggest economy, and the country's second most vulnerable area as sea levels rise. The area has the 10th most valuable assets in the world threatened by sea level rise. In the last 85 years, the relative sea level in Hampton Roads has risen 14 inches. That's well over a foot in just the last century. Some projections say that we can expect an additional 2 to 5 feet of relative sea level rise by the end of this century, and that would literally change the face of our state. It would cripple our economy, and it could threaten our national security as Norfolk Naval, the world's largest naval base, is impacted. Nuisance flooding that has increased in frequency will become the norm. They call it blue sky flooding. Storm surges from tropical systems will threaten more homes, businesses, and residents. And even away from the coast, Virginians are expected to feel the impact of climate change as severe weather becomes more dangerous and frequent. Just a few weeks ago, we had a highly unusual February outbreak of tornadoes in the Commonwealth that was very damaging and unfortunately deadly. Farming and forestry is our #1 industry in Virginia. It's a $70 billion industry in Virginia that supports around 400,000 jobs, and it's going to get more difficult and expensive. And the Commonwealth of Virginia, local governments, and the Navy are already spending millions to build more resilient infrastructure, with millions and millions more on the horizon. To replace just one pier at Norfolk Naval is about $35 to $40 million, and there are 14 piers, so that would be around $500 million right there. As a Commonwealth and a nation, we can't put our heads in the sand. We must act, and that is what today is about. I'm proud to have Virginia included in this first-of-its-kind coalition, which recognizes the reality and the pressing threat of man-made climate change and sea level rise. This group is already standing together to defend the Clean Power Plan, an ambitious and achievable plan to enjoy the health, economic, and environmental benefits of cleaner air and cleaner energy. But there may be other opportunities, and that's why I've come all the way from Virginia. I am looking forward to exploring ideas and opportunities to partner and collaborate. If there are enforcement actions we need to be taking, if there are legal cases we need to be involved in, if there are statutory or regulatory barriers to growing our clean energy sectors. And ultimately, I want to work together with my colleagues here and back in Virginia to help combat climate change and to shape a more sustainable future. And for any folks who would say that climate change is some sort of made-up global conspiracy, that we're wasting our time, then come to Hampton Roads. Come to Norfolk and take a look for yourselves. Mayor Frame would love to have you.
And our closer, another great colleague who has traveled far but come with tremendous energy to this cause and is an inspiration to us all, U.S. Virgin Islands Attorney General Claude Walker.
Thank you. Thank you, General Schneiderman. Vice President Gore, one of my heroes, I must say. Thank you. Yeah, I've come far to New York to be a part of this because in the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, we experience the effects of global warming. We see an increase in the coral bleaching. We have seaweeds, proliferation of seaweeds in the water, all due to global warming. We have tourism as our main industry, and one of the concerns that we have is that tourists will begin to see this as an issue and not visit our shores, but also residents of the Virgin Islands are starting to make decisions about whether to live in the Virgin Islands. People who have lived there for generations, where their families have lived there for generations. We have a hurricane season that starts in June and it goes until November. And it's incredibly destructive to have to go through hurricanes, tropical storms annually. So people make a decision. Do I want to put up with this, with the power lines coming down, buildings being toppled, having to rebuild annually? The strengths of the storms have increased over the years. Tropical storms now transform into hurricanes when initially they were viewed as tropical storms, but as they get close to the land, the strength increase. So we're starting to see people make decisions about whether to stay in a particular place, whether to move to higher ground, which is what some have said. As you experience flooding, as you experience these strong storms. So we have a strong stake in this, in making sure that we address this issue. We have launched an investigation into a company that we believe must provide us with information about what they knew about climate change and when they knew it, and we'll make our decision about what action to take. But to us, it's not an environmental issue as much as it is about survival, as Vice President Gore has stated. I mean, we try as Attorneys General to build a community, a safe community for all. But what good is that if annually everything is destroyed and people begin to say, why am I living here? So we're here today to support this cause, and we'll continue. It could be David and Goliath, the Virgin Islands, against a huge corporation, but we will not stop until we get to the bottom of this and make it clear to our residents as well as the American people that we have to do something transformational. We cannot continue to rely on fossil fuel. Vice President Gore has made that clear. We have to look at renewable energy. That's the only solution. And it's troubling that as the polar caps melt, you have companies that are looking at that as an opportunity to go and drill, to go and get more oil. Why? How selfish can you be? Your product is destroying this earth. And your strategy is, let's get to the polar caps first so we can get more oil to do what? To destroy the planet further? And we have documents showing that. So this is very troubling to us. And we will continue our fight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. And Eric, and I do want to note, Scripture reports David was not alone, in fact, Brother Walker. Eric and Matt will take on-topic questions.